This is the first fight versus Ruele34, and this is the first time we actually fought this guild. Very strong guild. They actually full cleared us very, very early. If you guys are watching my YouTube videos in chronology, a lot of the teams I'm using here, not really new, especially this one. I find this pretty consistent, and I know a couple of you guys on YouTube have been asking, hey Jagan, how do you deal with this comp? I think this is pretty good, but you need Singelica, you need ML there are issues with this one, especially let's say for example the Evildred beats your Singelica. So nothing is 100%. I mean, you don't go into a fight thinking that you're gonna 100% win. You have to go into a fight thinking that you have a 99% chance to win, hopefully. This one I have my Basar on a HP ring, so was able to tank just enough damage. It's very close though. Often when I'm fighting these kind of comps with this comp exactly, I expect my Basar to die. This kind of fight is one of those fights that really like highlights Singelica's like usefulness. I mentioned this before when I did her feature video, my like showcase video, that she's really good for burst battles. So battles that you can finish within, you know, 2 turns before her immortality is gone. Otherwise you might lose her. ML is really good for this combo. Anx, or is it Anx? He actually came onto my Discord just to ask, hey, how is the defense? And I told him that, you know, I'm making a video because I recorded the fights, so he'll be able to see it. But he assumed that I believe he assumed I did this exact comp to his team too. I don't know if he ever watches my YouTube video, so he might not know how I took out his team 1. But Angst, if you're watching now, you know. But by the time I post up this video, since this is a post-match commentary and I'm very behind on uploads, you might have way better defense by now. So Angst told me that, oh crap, like, you know, if like his defense, he felt that he needed to go back to the drawing board. And I think right now, honestly, everybody's defense, I mean, we got meta cookie cutter defenses here and there, and we see it all throughout, but I think the most interesting defense right now, and the ones that can get guaranteed wins, are ones that have like really complex strategy, or people are not used to it. Because yes, there are a lot of players that will be able to take a look at a team and just dissect the composition in terms of like, okay, what they should bring to counter certain mechanics. But there are other players that, you know, that may not be able to do it. I'm just talking in general, not to anyone in specific, but they might not be able to figure out a way. They might have to go with like, okay, so they go with the cookie cutter defense, I have to go with a cookie cutter offense team, etc, etc. The FCC SSB Charles meta, I mean, people will still run that sometimes, and they can throw some people off because they go with off the books builds and stats. It can still work. It can still work. Anyway, it's a long ramble, but it's just saying that there's nothing wrong with Angst defense. It's just, yeah, cookie cutter is probably the most dangerous at the moment. Anyways, that's this. He was the stronghold. That's it for this fight. So Kinney Thor, I believe he is a top player. I've seen his name like in the higher echelons of PvP. I saw his defense. I'm like, okay, I have to do this because I like using my Fire Schuri a lot. Again, if you're watching me in chronology, you know that I'm using my Fire Schuri into a lot of areas. I brought Assassin Sid into this one just in case that happened. Now, there was no guarantee my Assassin Sid would have beat that Basar. I didn't know how Kinney had his heroes built. But here, my thinking was, you know, yes, ML Angie has the speed and attack buff on Sid. 1 out of 3 chance that he's gonna hit my Lidica. 1 out of 3 chance he's gonna hit my Assassin Sid, who has evasion, and that happened, which is good. So while usually elemental advantage has really good use for Earth Sid, in this case it was actually probably worse because it got rid of my well, it didn't hit my real DPS, which is my Assassin Sid. But yeah, of course, I get to feature my level 50 4-star awakened Fire Schuri as well. Really, in this comp, because there was I mean, Sid can do good damage, but there wasn't really much of a follow-up in terms of like, you know, after Bazaar, if he does get crown stun or he doesn't, like there wasn't much follow-up to it. So I felt that this defense team specifically was more abusable for a very fast team, but I couldn't risk it. I didn't know how Kinney had his heroes built, so I brought a Fire Schuri with Sasha artifact for the CR boost. This one, I actually think I went a lot more complicated than I needed to, but I really wanted to use Vivian, especially on offense. But I had no idea that this Dizzy was on a violin. So that kind of took me by surprise, because my whole assumption going with a Vivian into an ML Ken was actually because I thought it was on a crown. The idea here, it should be pretty easy. My concept going into this, again, without knowing that Dizzy was on violin, is that save my revive buff for Mei Chloe, crowd a single target so I could bait with, or anti-bait with 2 earth. So he has to S3 the Mei Chloe. We have the single target light bait versus ML Ken with Mei Chloe as well. So this was okay. My Violet is pretty strong. It can nuke out ML Ken's a one-shot, especially if the crowd had died. Here I decided that it's about time to put this up. I looked at the turn rotation and I was worried that I would kill off the crowd or put him into his S3. Right there, I did it there, the S2 there, because I wanted to get the cleave off before my revive buff was gone, and also my barrier from Vivian's Dignus Orb. This crowd, I have to say though, is very tanky. I know my Violet's power, and even though he had a defense buff up, he shouldn't have survived that. So I'm assuming Kinney's crowd there was a defense buffed with like around 1600 or more defense. He had 23,000 HP. It's very, very tanky. That's why I actually went to the S3 right there. Otherwise, I would have just saved it for ML Ken. Here, there was 2 things that happened. You'll see this lucky dual attack. But honestly, I was ready to die in terms of the... because I had a revive buff on Vivian. So I felt that was a very low risk. But I got lucky without him countering me anyway. That's it for that one. There's the last fight with Breadmouth. So Kinney and Breadmouth are towers. They're not forts or anything. And he ran the same comp, so I wanted to test if I could do something a bit better in terms of the turn order. Like this time I wanted to push back to Bazaar. So again, the Assassin Sid is more of like a safety measure. If the Bazaar was pushed back, he has a speed down, and I can kill off Sid with my Assassin Sid, not like Kinney's fight. That was a bit more risky. But because Assassin Sid gets CR boost every time someone dies, whether it's your own team or the opponent, there was no problem like outspeeding that Bazaar. And I actually just did assume that that ML Angie was on a potion vial. I think these guys have built their ML Angies really fast, so perhaps lower resistance. I'm not quite sure, but the potion vial is a good touch anyway. But yeah, this one went better than Kinney's because I actually got to kill off the Sid. But the Assassin Sid was it was a backup in case the Bazaar didn't die. Fire Schuri's imprint is 14 speed for newer players if they're watching. 14 speed imprints, but 2 slots on the back and top, so that's why. For this last one, this team, FCC Kayron Charles, this is pretty popular right now, at least at this point of the recording. This entire team hits really hard, actually. I'm just lucky that I got a defense buff here. Usually you guys have seen me fight these comps now a lot with A Ravi, SD Raz, and a very tanky DN. It's pretty consistent, but for this specific Guild War, I got very... Like, I wanted to do something a bit faster, and actually Dark Corvus is a bit faster than my Raz comp. I didn't know the speed on Breadmouth, and going with the Raz and my A-Ravi was a bit risky if they were all three of them were like really fast. So if they turn cycle too fast, the DN Raz and ML Ravi team that I brought would die. Higher chance to die. And also Aliha's knife on Kayron is very dangerous after attack buff. In this comp, I have lost before. I think he was on Aliha. No, he wasn't. Okay, so yeah, if he was on Aliha's knife, it would be very, very, very scary. I've lost to a lot of K-Rons with Aliha knife. Yeah, ignore 20% defense is just too much. I got lucky on that heal there. Also, bringing in a Momo versus Akates is good because if Charles had crit my Akates, or even K-Ron crit Crow, crit Akates, crit Dark Corvus, because my Akates technically less tanky, then K-Ron would S3 into Akates depending on the speed tuning. So I brought Momo on this one specifically so that no matter what, K-Ron's first initial S3 will hit the Dark Corvus, and Dark Corvus should be able to tank it. Everything else after that, Charles is dead, was a lot easier to handle, and it is the tricky part about this comp. I think I have done it where I've killed the FCC first, killed the K-Ron first, killed the Charles first. It just depended on the speed tuning, depended on if they were on immunity or not. And yes, I have seen comps like this without Charles and K-Ron on immunity, which is ridiculous, in top 10 Guild War. Obviously not Breadmouth, he did it right. But in other guild, I was really surprised. And you know, SC Roz could go S2, defense break, and do a Robbie and just kill off one right away, like i.e. Charles. But this one was it was pretty threatening. But yeah, Dark Corvus is technically a pretty fast way to do it. I mean, other ways I think people are saying is that you could go Dizzy on this one. And while I say that it'd probably be a bit safer than the RB Charles FCC comp to go with Dizzy on this one because K-Ron, Dark Corvus is often faster than Dizzy, especially if you allow K-Ron to survive, since he always S3. Or sorry, he always AoE, so he'll always hit Dark Corvus to feed. That was also another reason why we want to take out the Charles first. It was on Alexa's basket, yeah, so he didn't actually need the Charles for the attack buff. Yeah, so taking out the Charles first was a lot better.
All troops, advance! This world's existence no longer has any.
That actually, now I'm looking at this as I'm commentating on that. That K-Ron looks pretty tanky actually. Oh, that's 9,000 HP. That's okay. It's okay. The defense might be high though. Felt like it took forever to take him out. Anyways, that was it. Anyways, like I said at the beginning, both of us actually full cleared each other, but Ruele34 did better in terms of they had extra attacks left over. Anyways, good Guild War, guys. I'm going to end this with the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.